and on. And so it was so intense for me when I was born. It was already a level of attack, and what I felt at the level of the mind was being played out. I mean, my mother was in a violent relationship when she was having me, so there was all that anxiety through being carried. And then when I was born, I was suffocated, stopped breathing, but it was no accident that we lived by an A&E when I was resuscitated. You know, the course says everything's written. You know, and that this world was over long ago, so everything is written, and there's nothing that I can change. It's just playing out as a memory on a loop system, if you like. So yeah, I was getting the attack thoughts that were in my mind were getting projected out and were attacking me, and so my biological parents were projected outwards at the figures that I created, and my subconscious mind was having them respond to me. So they were really like puppets, really, and it's so easy to blame and feel like a victim. So my childhood was quite horrendous, because I was forever projecting out. I needed to be severely punished for the guilt. I was unworthy. I deserved to be punished. The belief that I should be punished and I should be destroyed was constantly being played out in my face. So my childhood experience was, well, my mum she couldn't love me. It seemed that she couldn't love me because I was not loving, not lovable. She just couldn't love me. There was just this ice coldness between her and I from a very early age, and there was this disconnect, and this was from the severe belief in my mind that I was unloving, I was unlovable and unloved, and she played that role perfectly, but it seemed to reinforce those feelings of being unloved, unloving and unlovable, and not worthy. So she was just really playing her part, but it was reinforcing this feeling I was holding in the mind. And then my dad, it would seem, it was almost like he was symbolic of my Father God and everything I believed about my Father God. He was playing the role perfectly. You know, he hated me, he wanted to hurt me and punish me and kill me. Well, that became my experience for 7 years. There was times, you know, well, every day, I say there were times, every day was a projection of this hatred. I was force-fed my own vomit. I was cut and injured and brutalised and abused on every level you can think of, and it was a daily thing. And I think I was about 4 years old, and all I could ever remember was extreme sadness and loneliness. And I just felt at the age of 4 that I was a worthless piece of shit, and that I was guilty on some level of extreme evil, and that I deserved to be punished because I was unworthy, and that this entire game of life for me was about punishment. And I accepted that. I believed it. I believed that I was here to be abused, and I was here to be hated. I just had this whole mentality going on of what I was and what I deserved, and it played out for me perfectly. And then I guess when I was around 4 or 5, my mother got into a taxi one day and she left me and my 2 brothers at home alone. She'd gone off with another man, and she couldn't bear the life, the violence, the torture. She couldn't stand it anymore, so she ran, and she left us behind. So you see, everything is my guilt projected out, everything. And so everything that happened to me is what I'm guilty of. I need to accept the guilt in my mind and forgive and release it, and not to get into blame. At that age I wasn't into blaming anybody, but I also wasn't into seeing the truth or forgiving. It's just the way it was, and I was entrenched in the victimizer role, very entrenched in that. So when my mother left, the violence and the games of evil seemed to intensify, and then a stepmother arrived on the scene who was somewhat like the role of the Queen in Snow White. So everything kept being continually played out. So the first 7 years of my life were extreme, and so much so that I lived in a complete world of fear and contraction. I was literally terrified of everything, particularly men. I feared all men. I could tremble and literally wet myself at the sight of a man. And so there were real big issues there. And it was very stressful, very stressful. I obviously created all of this. Then at the age of 7, my grandparents on my mother's side decided that they had to do something to remedy this situation. They knew what was going on, and they insisted that my mother went to court and got custody. And so this court case played out, and I don't ever recall being involved in it or being asked what was going on or what choice that we would make. The only thing I remember is that my mother actually won the case, and so my father came home from work and he was angry. He was furious, and he said that we'd betrayed him and that he hated us for it, that he never ever wanted anything to do with us ever again, because we'd chosen to leave him, and he couldn't accept that, and so he had this intense rage that he directed back at us, and of course he said if my mother made claim to maintenance or the house, then he would kill us all. And so it was this intense fury, and so I was bundled into the back of this car at age 7 and taken away from all that I know. And to me, I thought that violence and rage and anger and hatred was what love was. And I believe that's my parents were loving me this way, and giving me attention. And so when I was removed from that situation, there's an instant feeling that, well, great, there's going to be some relief in that, but there was still this, there was this intense sadness, that the rejection that I believed that God had rejected me and didn't want me was playing out, as I seemed to be hearing that from my father, and this whole issue of abandonment was playing out, and there was this intense sadness, because I've been removed from that life, that world that I knew and was familiar with, and it didn't matter how horrendous it was, it's all that I knew, and in that I got some, I don't know, form of attention. I mean, it doesn't matter whether it's good or bad, attention is attention, and so there was this extreme feeling of sadness, and I'd spent 7 years trying to make my father love me, and I'd failed big time on that one, and so yeah, I still felt this deep sense of sadness. I felt extremely guilty, and unworthy, extremely unworthy. This was a continuation of that. I didn't know where we were going to go, where we were being taken to. I thought in my heart, I was excited to think I would be reunited with my mother, and it wasn't to be the case. She'd moved on in her life, and so I ended up living with my grandparents on my mum's side, and this is why I mentioned my grandfather was the atheist and had this intense hatred of God, so I went to live there, and so I'd gone from this this place where I became extremely contracted in fear and guilt to a place which seemed to give a different environment, but still the same old issues were playing out there, and really the fear for me was about to be intensified. But nobody could have ever understood or seen that, and I didn't know I was creating my own little world at that time. I had no clue. I was completely lost in this victimizing mode. I'm looking at the clock now. It's about to click off. So I guess I'll continue with the story in part 2. Yeah, I'll see you there.